Hey, what is up guys? We're coming at you with a brand new update on my Harpie Lady deck profile for April 2019. Thankfully, my friend recently went to Japan and was able to pick me up a playset of Harpie Conductors. Now, so I'm able to do a deck profile featuring Harpie Conductors physically and not having to proxy her. Now, there is a chance she is going to be coming to us in the next Battles of Legends set, as the Trap Tricks link is coming in that as confirmed. And of course, she came in Reigns Pack 2 with Harpie Conductor. So hopefully that's going to happen, so we won't have to wait too much longer to get Harpie Conductor in our decks. Anyway guys, now that that's out of the way, let's jump into the profile and hope you guys do like it. Starting things off, we have 3 copies of Harpie Channeler. Of course, you know what she does by now if you've been keeping up with all my Harpie videos. Like all my Harpie monsters, she counts as Harpie Lady on field and in graveyard, with the exception of my dragons. And then of course, once per turn, you can discard a Harpie card from your hand, special summon a Harpie monster from your deck in defense mode, and if you control a dragon type monster, she becomes a level 7, which does give you access to some extra abilities later down the track. We also have 3 copies of Harpie Harpers. Again, hasn't changed much. Her effect is when she is normal summoned, you can target another normal summon monster you control, bounce it to your hand, and then you can bounce one of your opponent's monsters. Then if she's in the graveyard because she was sent there this turn, you can add a level 4 Windwing Beast with 1500 or less attack points. So pretty much any Harpie in the deck except for Sisters, Queen, and Harpist herself, which is pretty cool. Next up guys, we have our 2 new Harpies, of course. We have 2 copies of Perfumer. When she is normal or special summoned, you can go ahead and grab a spell or trap that specifically lists Harpie Lady Sisters from your deck to your hand. And if you controlled a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, when you activate this effect, you can add up to 2 cards with different names instead. This is a really good secondary opener if you don't open the Channeler, but you definitely want to get that +2 if you can off the second effect of Perfumer. We only run her at 2 because her effect is a hard once per turn. Similarly, of course, that goes for Harpie Oracle, which has her effects can also only be used hard once per turn. Her first effect is if she is normal summoned, you can go ahead and activate this effect, and it also activates if she's special summoned as well. You can grab a spell or trap from your graveyard that specifically lists Harpie Lady Sisters during the end phase, and if you control a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, you can special summon her out from your hand. So you run her at 2, because if you run her at 3, she can get a bit of a brick in your hand, particularly when you're so tight for space as it is. Moving on to our Elegant Egotist targets, we have 2 copies of Harpie Lady 1 and 1 copy of Harpie Lady Sisters. In my last Harpie profile, I explained that you need to run 1 copy of Sisters now because the new cards do want you to have a level 5 or higher Harpie out on the field. And of course, out of all the Sisters, Harpie Lady 1 is the best to use because she gives all your monsters 300 attack. I really want to run Harpie Lady 2, as she's my favorite of the 3 sisters, but her ability is kind of irrelevant in this day and age, which is a shame, really. We also have 1 copy of Harpie Dancer as usual. So when she is, you can use her effect to bounce a wind monster you control. It doesn't have to be herself, it can be to then normal summon another wind monster from your hand. So obviously activates effects of Hunting Ground multiple times, combos off with your Link monster, and can combo off with Harpist really well as well. You only run her at 1 because, she becomes a bit of a bricky card if you don't have anything you really want to combo off with her, so she's fine as a one-off. Next up guys, 2 copies of Queen. Queen, I used to run at 3 copies because I have so many ways to search my field spell now. I don't really need to run her at 3. Mostly just use her as a beat stick and a discard target if I really want to get a Harpie engrave a lot easily. Pretty good card on her own. She's 1900 beat stick, so I mean she is the highest attack of any main deck Harpie monster, so it's pretty cool. Next up guys, we have 1 copy of Harpie's Pet Baby Dragon. So he's the newest addition to the deck, swapped out for Harpie's Pet Dragon, as I found Harpie's Pet Dragon was bricking me a little too much more than I would have liked. Harpie's Pet Dragon in the past did brick your channelers, so you couldn't go for rank 7 plays, but nowadays rank 7 plays you don't really need in this deck. You're more focused on your rank 4 plays and your Link plays. He has 3 effects based on the number of other Harpie monsters you control. If you have 1 or more, your opponent cannot select another Harpie for an attack target apart from him. 2 or more, his attack and defense are doubled, and 3 or more, you can destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field once per turn. Running this guy is also good because you can use him to make rank 4s, and then of course, it is a great way to cheat in Harpie Girl into your deck, as she is featured on the artwork as well, which is really nice. Our last 2 monsters for the main deck are 2 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is pretty easy to get now, so yeah, Ash Blossom's always good. If you really want to, you can add impermanences and stuff to the deck later on, or your other hand traps, but it's all down to personal preference and the budget that you want to use. I still want to keep the deck as pure Harpie as possible, but I did still need an extra hand trap just in case. Moving on to the spells, guys, we have 3 copies of Hysteric Sign and 1 copy of Elegant Egotist. Elegant Egotist, if there's a Harpie on the field, you can summon Harpie Lady or Harpie Lady Sisters from your hand or deck. Hysteric Sign, when it's activated, you can add Elegant Egotist from your deck or grave to your hand. Then if it's sent to the graveyard from the field or hand to the graveyard during the end phase, you can add up to 3 Harpie cards with different names from your deck to your hand. But unfortunately, you can only use each effect of Hysteric Sign once per turn and only once per turn. Sorry, 1 effect per turn, sorry. So you can't use both effects in the same turn, as it would be, I think too good, I guess. I don't know. But I did run Hysteric Sign at 2 copies in the previous build, and a lot of people gave me a lot of, were pretty angry about that. But you can run it at 2 and get away with it. I'm running a 41 card deck. So I'm running it at 3 with a 41 card deck. If you really want to stick to 40, you can just cut mirrors down to 1. But I think playing 41 cards in Harpies is fine, especially considering how much deck thin you actually have in this deck right now. Next up, guys, we have 2 copies of Harpie's Feather Roost, or Harpie's Feather Rest is its English name. When it is activated, you target 3 Harpie Lady and or Harpie Lady Sisters in your graveyard, shuffle them back to your deck, and draw a card. If you control a level 5 or higher Harpie when you activate this effect, you draw 2 cards. For the rest of this turn, after this effect resolves, you cannot special summon any monsters except for Wind. You're playing Harpies, it's not really an issue. And of course, this card can only be played as a hard once per turn, because it's a searchable and salvageable Pot of Avarice, which is really nice. What also is really cool about this card is it specifies for the rest of this turn after this card resolves. So you can go ahead and make something like Ice Beast or Utopia before you play this card. Then you can use it and you don't really get hit by the limitations of the card, which is pretty cool. Next up, guys, we have the aforementioned Alluring Mirror Split or Split Mirrors of Seduction, which of course is its Japanese name. When it is on the field as a continuous spell, if your Harpie Lady or Harpie Lady Sisters is destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, you can special summon another Harpie monster from your deck with a different original name. Its second effect, which is much more reliable and much more useful, is when it is destroyed in your possession, in your spell and trap card zone, by your opponent's card effect, or specifically your Harpie card effect, you can special summon a Harpie from your grave. Now, you can only use each effect of this card once per turn. So, that's pretty cool. A lot of people don't like the card because your Harpie has to be destroyed by battle, but you can just ram your own Harpie. But it's a really good target for the protection, to be used for destruction, for the protection effect of your Link monster, which is really nice, which is why I run it too. And it's also another searchable and salvageable target for Oracle and Perfumer, respectively. So, more deck thin is good, more hand advantage is good. We also have 2 copies of their field spell, Harpie's Hunting Ground. Hunting Ground is a card you don't really need at 3 copies anymore because you have so many ways to search it, you can salvage it, and most of the time you're going to be popping your own back row as opposed to your opponent's, but we still run it too just in case we need to pop some back row. It also gives us a whopping 200 attack point boost, which can be relevant in some situations depending on the deck you're going up against. But yeah, it's also a card that I love because it features the Ojamas in the artwork as well as the Harpies. So, and they're 2 of my favorite archetypes in the same card, which I think has always been a really cool thing about, playing Ojamas and Harpies. They're basically mortal enemies, which is pretty cool. Moving on to our generic spells, we have 1 copy of Upstart, 1 Day of Peace, and 1 Monster Reborn. Upstart and 1 Day are for drawing, Monster Reborn is for resurrection, obviously. If you really want to, you can swap out the Upstart and the 1 Days for other more expensive draw spells, but again, we're playing on a budget, and 1 Day and Upstart are perfectly fine for this deck, as it is. Next up, guys, moving on to the traps. We have 3 copies of Harpie's Featherstorm, everyone's favorite archetypal hand trap. When it's activated, your opponent cannot activate any, it negates all activated effects from monsters your opponent activates for the rest of the turn. You can play it from hand if you have a Harpie on the field, but you must have a Win-Win Beast on the field to activate it. So what's really cool is if you randomly have like Castell on the field and Harpie's pet Baby Dragon, you can play this card from your hand as you meet the conditions of a Harpie monster and a Win-Win Beast, which is pretty cool. If it's destroyed in your spell and trap card zone by your opponent's card effect, you get a Harpie's Feather Duster. When it gets released in the freed in the TCG, when that is, we don't know, but hopefully it's soon. And yes, I will run it in the deck at 1 if we get it. Well, not if, when it comes back, because it should be coming back soon, right? We have 2 copies of Hysteric Party. Party in this format is a card you could run at 3. Due to deck space, I'm running it at 2. You discard a card to special summon as many Harpie Ladies from your graveyard as possible. And remember, everything's called Harpie Lady in graveyard, so this is discard 1 card, summon up to 5 monsters. You can use those for whatever you want, as there's no other limitations to this card whatsoever. It's pretty busted when you think about it, but you do need to remember it is a continuous trap that works like Call of the Hornet and cards like Birthright. If it leaves the field, the monsters equipped to it do die. If the monsters die, however, this stays out on the field. But again, it's discard 1 card to summon 5 monsters. Sure, they're linked to it, but it's actually still a pretty cool card. That's like a free Link 5, you know, or a free Harpie Conductor and a Phantasmal Dragon for a cost of discarding 1 card, which to me seems like a pretty good trade. Anyway, guys, our last trap cards in the deck, we have 2 copies of Icarus Attack, 1 copy of Stormy Mirror Force, and 1 copy of Magical Hats. Of course, Magical Hats is in there for that Hysteric Sign combo, which you guys have probably seen in the past in other Harpie videos, and of course, Stormy to bounce and Icarus for destruction, which is pretty cool. Moving on to the extra deck, starting off, of course, with the mighty Harpie Conductor herself. We have 2 copies of her. She is the Harpie's archetypal exclusive Link monster because she counts as Harpie Lady on the field and in the graveyard, and we have cards like Hysteric Party and Harpie's Feather Roosting. We only need to run her at 2 copies. So her first effect, like I said, she counts as Harpie Lady on field and in grave. Second effect is if you're a Harpie monster or monsters would be destroyed by your opponent's card effect or by battle, you can destroy a spell or trap card you control instead. That is a hard once per turn ability, and then her other hard once per turn ability is when a Harpie monster is returned from your field to your hand, you can target a special summon monster your opponent controls and bounce that to your hand, which is actually pretty cool because she combos off with Harpie Harpist and Harpie Dancer. Obviously, it's a lot more consistent if you just combo it off with Dancer, but it's still a nice little combo that you can pull off there. Fingers crossed she comes to us for the TCG in the next Battles of Legends set, but in the end of the day, who knows. Our other Link monster we play is 1 copy of Greatfly because he's generic Wind Link. Gives all your wind monsters 500 attack and 400 defense. No, so 500 attack and defense, and lowers all earth monsters by 400. And then when you destroy it and send it to the grave, we get a wind monster straight back from the grave to our hand, which is pretty cool. If you don't really want to be playing Conductor in your deck now because she's not out yet, you can play 2 copies of Greatfly and 1 copy of like Firefighting Drama Doll, as he can be used for generic wind based linking sort of things, which is pretty cool. Next up, moving on to the XYZs, which make up the rest of the extra deck right now. We have 2 copies of Harpie's Pet Phantasmal Dragon. You could run this guy at 3 copies, but you're really only going to need to get 2 of him. You're only really going to need to play 2 of this guy out on the field. So with his effects, as long as he has an overlay material, your opponent cannot target any Harpie monsters with effects or attacks, and he can attack your opponent directly, which, I mean, assuming you have him out on the field and your opponent can't deal with him for 3 turns, that's 6,000 free points of battle damage, which is nuts, especially if you can get 2 of these guys out. That's pretty much, you're going to win the game in 3 turns, right? He does force you to detach an overlay unit at the end of each turn, fair enough, and once he doesn't have any materials, of course, he's basically just a 2k beat stick. But what makes him really good is he protects all your monsters from being targeted, and then if you have Conductor out, of course, she prevents all your Harpie monsters from being destroyed by battle or card effects hard once per turn. So basically, if you set up Conductor and Phantasmal, your opponent can't target you with the cards or effects, and they can't destroy you hard once per turn. Now, cards like Evenly Matched do exist, which pretty much cripple the strategy, but there aren't too many cards out there that can cripple the strategy, which is pretty cool. So, and it's not too hard to set up. I go over it in my combo video, which is up here on the channel, if you guys want to take a look at it. Moving on to our more generic wing beasts, or really Harpie or wind staples, we have Tornado Dragon, Castel, and Lightning Chidori. Of course, Tornado Dragon being MST on legs, Castel being a card that can shuffle opponent's cards back to deck, and Chidori puts their set and face-up cards back to their top and the bottom of the deck, respectively. All these monsters are wins, so once they run out of overlay units, you can use them to go ahead and make Conductor or Greatfly. As well as that, Castel is a wing beast, so he's a viable target if you want to set your Featherstorm. I don't tend to make Tornado Dragon as much as I used to, but I still feel he is definitely worth running in the deck. Moving on to our other generic rank 4 staple for wing beasts, we have Ice Beast Seraphim. So I run her at 2 because no one ever expects the second Seraphim. I can pretty much confirm that unless they've seen this video and then they know I run 2 of them, right? So she's detached 1 overlay unit to negate the face-up effects of all cards your opponent currently controls until your next standby phase. Then she gains 300 extra attack for every other face-up card on the field. Yes, including yours. And Harpies have a lot of face-up cards that they play on the field. So she gets massive pretty quickly. And if you're worried about her being a water, that is an issue, yes. Which is why if you want to run a generic Wind Beast Link, which I can't remember if there is one off the top of my head other than Drama Doll, you can. But, I mean, getting this thing huge is pretty devastating as it is. So, for rounding off the rest of the extra deck, we have the Utopia package. Pretty straightforward. Babushka and the Time Thief Redoer because memes. Now, of course, the Wind Charmer Link is coming out in one of Rising Rampage, I believe it's called. And I definitely want to run her in this deck, particularly if that new Wind archetype does come out, just so I have a kind of a sneaky tech out to it. But as I mentioned, I think when I did my Heater video, I really just wanted the ability to play one of my favorite monsters with my favorite deck. Like being able to play being able to play Wind, my favorite Charmer, with my favorite deck, which is the Harpies. So, anyway, guys, what do you guys think of this deck? Do you like it? Do you like, what do you think about my thoughts on the extra deck? Of course, you can run cards like Borrowload Dragon. You can always add more meta cards to the deck if you want, but this is more built on a budget. If you like the video, remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to see some more combo videos or some test hands for it, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to see some games, I can try and get some games filmed, or they may end up over on Will the Reaper's channel. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you for my next video.